Hello, everybody. Ruby.
Ruby,
I'm not wearing glasses or sunglasses or anything today because I have made notes and I have to read, and for some reason I can't read with lenses on my face. I don't know why. It's just a weird thing about my stupid eyes that are stupid. So,
Volume 5, Chapter 13, Downfall.
a lot to unpack in this episode. So, when I say I made notes, I mean I made notes on pretty much everything that happens in this episode. So, starting from the top, we have Ruby is facing off against Mercury for some reason, and he knocks the weapon out of her hand. And it's like, oh, what are you gonna do now? Because she's supposed to be shitty with hand to hand. And suddenly, through very little explanation, she is suddenly very, or at least passable at hand to hand, despite never actually being shown being.
She headbutts him. She doesn't punch him.
You know what I mean? Weaponless combat, if you
But
want to
like,
call
but
it
like
that.
the
But
the whole idea. This is so. It's so obvious what it's meant to do. It's meant to show. Oh, she's got stronger. She's covered her weakness a little bit. But it's forced. It's incredibly forced.
you need to show that happening beforehand rather than just showing, oh yeah, she still sucks, and then she suddenly doesn't. That's not how that works. Like
We
even
never
if
saw the completion of the training arc.
yeah, even if you don't show, oh, she's in a fight and she's actually doing okay in hand to hand, you have to say, like, even after the fact, is like, oh, she did way better in hand to hand that time than she usually does. She's improving. Something, rather than just skipping to her just being good all of a sudden. So, that annoyed me a little bit. I watched this the first time, and once again, I was fairly lenient. And then I went back because, like I say, there was a lot to unpack, and decided to take notes because there's a lot to unpack. It does not do well on a second viewing. Uh,
Hmm.
so next up we go back to Jean, who is still healing. Weiss, we had explained that's not actually what he's doing, but uh, Nora is guarding them and saying the obvious of, "Hey, you unlocked your semblance, great job," and it's entirely pointless for her to be guarding them, considering no one can actually move away from their designated fights. But you know,
And John goes, "No, I don't think I'm healing her. I'm using my aura to amplify hers, and I have a lot of it."
I wrote the specific line because the line is important. Pyrrha once told me I've got a lot of it. I still believe her. Why? Why do you need to believe her? Like,
Was that something that you didn't believe at all ever?
surely it should have been proved several times by now, like the time you fought Cardin in the training match. And if you had a lot of aura, he was probably kicking your ass up and down that stage for like 20 minutes for you to have run out. So, like, at this point, surely he's had some proof that he has a lot of aura.
It's a bad line,
Yeah, it's a
but
dumb
yeah.
line.
Well, at the very least, doesn't ruin the world building earlier of, oh yeah, now aura can definitely does heal you.
Do you want to run that again?
Yeah, yeah. Good for not destroying the whole popular conception of aura being able to heal.
Yeah. So, where were we? Jean's semblance doesn't break convention of aura heals people. That was a thing that happened.
Yeah. So good on them for that, at least.
Consistency in this, at least.
Yeah, I expect the worst now, so that's nice that that didn't come to pass.
So, Jean is now the white mage, or possibly the bard. So,
Yeah, he buffs people because auras use semblance, so he's like in Konosuba where Kazuma gets the drain touch and then he just uses that to give mana to Megaman to use explosion multiple times. He just
yeah.
that kind
So,
of concept of he gives you more stuff.
Yeah, so he's the kind of character that should probably just stay in the back then, yes?
What this means is that, yeah, no, sorry, Jean, you're not going to the front line ever.
Yeah, remember
Because
when you had an entire arc that was dedicated to you being decent in frontline combat?
if you use your aura to actually fight, that's the aura you could be using to give to somebody else.
Who is a better fighter than you?
Mm-hmm. This is where you cap out. This is your peak right here.
So, that fancy sword that you just had, Smith, I think we could reforge that into a gun or something, like just a ranged weapon of some kind so you can stay in the back where you belong.
Mm.
They're not going to do that, but logically they should.
Yeah.
It would be nice if they acknowledged that they probably should, though. Like, everyone's like, hey, you have this super cool semblance for supercharging people. You should probably stay in the back so you can do that for people and we can have a big heavy hit every now and again. Doesn't that sound great? He's like, no, I want to be the hero. I'm exaggerating a little bit, probably something along those lines. And also probably a line about honoring Pyrrha by being a good fighter or something bullshit like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Next comes up is Hazel being Hazel, and
Ren gets knocked out instantly.
We see Ren fight for a second. That's technically not true. We see Ren get hit for a second.
And then Nora goes up and decides to run up and join the fray against Hazel.
Mm-hmm. And he basically bitch slaps her into the ground and then tries to lightning her. And obviously that doesn't work because we know it wouldn't work. So she basically just turned that fight around by fucking up completely.
I do. On the one hand, it's completely in character. On the other hand, interesting use of semblance coming into play here. Ozpin explains...
You lose. Oh wait, no you don't. Because circumstance bonus, bitch.
Ozpin explains he can only do this because his semblance makes him immune to all pain.
That's a shitty semblance. That's a disability in most circumstances. Like,
yeah, no, people can be born with that. But, yeah, so Nora's like, I don't need him to hurt. I need him to go down. And I swear there's a much better line there where I need him to break would just be so much better.
I need him to die would also be better, but heroes can't say the word die. Heroes never say die. Not because they would never want to die, but because...
I don't need him to hurt, I need him to break is a really good response. Because it's just like, I need to make him unable to fight.
Yeah, comparatively. Also, Lionheart is still in the fight. Blink and you'll miss him. Literally. He's on for like one frame.
It's so bad. So yeah, she launches Hazel out of the building, and Hazel's like, I'm so mad, I'm gonna put more dust crystal into my arms. There's gotta be a limit. You know?
And the White Fang are like, what the fuck? And he's like, fuck you guys, this is your problem. I'm done.
Why are you guys all standing out here, just right in front in the first place?
Yeah. So then Blake has her heroic entrance.
Remember what I said? Blake was just going to teleport across the continent?
From our perspective, yes, she does do that.
Yes. Because there's no other way you could write that after the way you organized this story. So here comes Blake with an army of Faunus and the police. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember there are police now. I forgot they existed for a while.
Yeah, and Adam is like, fuck all y'all, we're all gonna die together. No, wait. I should point out something that was actually really good, which was when the White Fang, the Neo White Fang, show up, and what's his name?
The Mitras or something.
Gira, that was it.
Oh,
His name was
Gira.
the boss dude. He's like, they're like, who's there? And he's like, your brothers and sisters. And then, in one of the circumstances, it's literal. One of the White Fang soldiers recognizes someone in the crowd, and there's actually a genuine moment there where it's like, could just stop, please. And that was actually really good.
Yeah.
That was a good spot. So I thought that deserved mention. Like we shit on the show a lot, but that was a really good moment.
And Adam begins to lose his collective crap. He's like, "Well, we're all going down together."
Mm-hmm.
This isn't working.
Does a Joker thing where he just
yeah, and it's like, yeah, no, we had somebody go and take care of that beforehand, and then Ilya shows up, and it's like, boy, Adam. Remember when I said, like, what was an episode or two ago, where it's like, look at all these glowing red bombs placed in extreme, like, just everywhere.
Mm.
Nobody's surely going to notice those.
Incidentally, and I did write this in my notes as well, in capital letters because it annoyed the crap out of me, everyone inside that room that Hazel was just in, they're all taking a breather right now. Mercury, Emerald, and Lionheart are still there, just kind of standing there, and we get an explicit shot of all of the heroes just kind of, whew. God, at least we got some breathing room, right, guys? Hey, Mercury, how you doing? Doing good? Good? Okay, we'll get back to it in a second. Just bear with us.
The biggest problem I think I have with this whole set of fights in that room is that there's so much standing around and doing nothing.
Hey, Emerald, do you want a bottle of water or anything? I got 7-Up. It's pretty good. No? Okay.
Anyway, Adam loses, essentially.
This moment really pissed me off for several reasons. I mentioned last episode that Shane Newell said that the original plan for the season 3 ending with Yang getting her arm cut off was actually just Blake and Yang fight Adam, and it was going to be a badass girl power fight scene. That would have made this scene a little more sensible. Because what the actual scene in the show demonstrated was that Adam was a cut above. He is next level badass dude because he takes both of them down with barely any effort.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we have Adam rushing at Blake, not even considering her semblance, even though he's worked with her for years and knows it, and going down in one hit to a double axe handle. It's just...
Yep.
Not to mention Blake's little dodge thing with the shadow clone. If she's still close enough to do a double axe handle down on his head, then she is also still close enough to be in range of that sword swing that does go right the way around that way to where she's standing.
Yeah, no, that particular part, that's not how her semblance works. She just suddenly, there's two of her and she misses the attack even though she's standing in the area where she would have been hit. It doesn't make much sense, and it's a moment that's just really odd. And the fact that, again, Adam goes down to a hit on the back of the head like that, or is still a thing, right? His a thing where he does counterattacks is still a thing, right?
Not for this moment where they wanted to show Blake being cool. I guess. She doesn't, because this is ridiculous. And if they actually made it a fight, she probably would look cool. But for this moment, and I'm still not calling it a fight because it's not one, which is also why I can't blame the fight choreography because it's not one, it's just a moment that doesn't make sense. Yeah, none of this works.
I would have liked to see an actual fight between them.
That would have been interesting. That would have been Blake. That would be basically a game of baiting Adam into using his super move in a moment where Blake would be able to dodge it using a semblance and getting him to waste it. That could have been a cool concept.
Instead, Blake takes him down, like, yeah, cool. She runs up, she's like, Yang! And Yang's like, oh, hey, girl. And
I'd like you to try and explain this next bit for me because I have extensive notes on what happens next.
so Yang's like, yeah, sure, I guess I'll run after my mom. And she does. And then Mercury grabs her hand, and so instead of, shooting him with her shotgun hand or anything, she releases her arm, and it's like, surely I could beat her with just one arm, and jumps down. And then, like, Ruby looks back at Blake, and Blake kind of nods. It's like, yeah, sorry, I gotta go back to my not fight.
So, I'm just cracking everything just so I can get into the meat of this thing. So, you say her. Which her are you referring to exactly when you say Yang goes down to fight her? Because there are 3 hers down there as far as everyone upstairs knows. There is Cinder.
She's going
there is
down
Raven,
to...
and there is Vernal. They are all, as far as everyone upstairs is concerned, still alive, still capable, and still allied. So, when RWBY tells Yang to go down the elevator, she is basically sending her into a 1-on-3 fight against 3 people that are all supposedly stronger than her.
And 2 of which are supposedly maidens. So...
And
Yang goes down with one.
Mercury gets grabbed by Yang, and...
Or he grabs Yang, yeah.
He takes the arm because Yang lets him, which means, yes, congratulations, Yang. Your anger management seems to have worked out perfectly. And has also meant that you basically just gave up half of your combat potential when you're going into a situation that is already massively disadvantageous for you.
This can only go well. Clearly.
And then RWBY just fucking stands there.
And Blake doesn't rush in to help. She goes back even though she already won outside.
As I said earlier, I was a lot more lenient on this episode the first time I watched it. The second time, oh god, when you actually pay attention.
If you're actually watching it and you're just not paying attention, it's a fun episode. There's lots of fun moments. But if you're actually paying attention and trying to analyze this critically, it's... Yeah, okay. So, meanwhile, downstairs, you got the fight that... I had problems with this fight.
Before we get into that, Cinder says, hey, Raven, I guess Vernal was a decoy all along. I guess the previous maiden trusted you a whole bunch, huh? I bet that was a mistake. Paraphrasing, but that's more or less what she said. And then Raven gets mad at this. I'm really hoping the implication is not that Summer was the Spring Maiden. As a fake out, you get it. Summer, Spring. Because that would actually invalidate the fact that this was actually a good twist. Like we mentioned before, there were 2 ways this could have turned out. Vernal was actually the Spring Maiden and just passed the powers to Raven, or Raven was the Spring Maiden all along. Turns out it was the latter, and that was the better option.
Mm-hmm.
But if Summer was the Spring Maiden, then it basically undoes all of the good things about this plot twist.
We have yet to see on that, though, so
Yeah.
I'm going to withhold judgment for that until we learn more.
I can't judge yet, but giving it a bit of side eye there.
So they proceed to fight with conjured weapons of fire and ice, and stalactites are falling, and they're running on them, and they're fighting,
Yep.
and they're doing some DBZ teleporting.
Yep. And they really like that shot where they're in one place, then they're in another, then they're in another. They use that a couple of times in this fight, and you notice when you use two shots of very similar style in the same fight, when the fight is about 2-3 minutes long. It shows.
On the outside, the fight looks impressive.
Hmm.
But there's one thing that I think is really missing from the fight, and that's they're doing the weird DBZ teleports, and you're missing a lot of the really cool movement that I feel like RWBY as a show has had a lot of in previous seasons.
Yeah,
where how characters move and how they get around are always interesting, and they put a lot of momentum and speed and hype into the scene.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's gone for the most part.
In fairness, this is, well, it's a DBZ fight scene because both of these characters are superpowered in a world of superpowers. These are the next level up, where I guess you can do that sort of thing, and hopefully, there won't be a lot of characters that are on this level, so we can get a lot more of the fairly, I won't say standard, but specific to the style of RWBY fight scenes that we're used to. Then again, given the caliber of the fight scenes that we've seen from characters on that level this season, I fucking doubt it.
Which is something I was taking into consideration when I mentioned this. Because if you want to talk superpowered fights, the few shots we get of Ozpin versus Cinder is much more interesting.
Yeah, that was a lot more stylized, though, because they used the darkness very effectively in that fight scene. This one, everything's well lit, everything's very visible, and it looks like a Dragon Ball Z fight scene. Cool, I guess. I guess they've been watching Super.
Like I like Dragon Ball, but I like Dragon Ball when it's in Dragon Ball. Because it's just it's stupid enough to be like, yeah, I know what I'm getting when I watch Dragon Ball.
Yeah. Like, we harp a lot on RWBY stealing things from other anime. There are a lot of examples of that. As in, it's getting difficult to count them. But there are little bits and pieces that are actually kind of, they belong to RWBY, and you can't really find them in many other places. And the fights are one of them. Because, as you say, the use of momentum in how the weapons work is not something you get in very many shows.
Yeah. Like, seeing Yang propel herself with her shotgun fists, or RWBY, like, stand her scythe and use the sniper blast.
Mm-hmm.
Stuff like that really helps to make the fights more dynamic. But instead, neither of these characters seem to have any sort of unique way to get around. And you'd think you'd get something cool like Raven actually turning into a Raven and then switching back and attacking at the last moment. That would be an interesting way to... And you could do some interesting shots.
Using her portals.
Or her portals. Yeah, she doesn't use them at all. Like, her portals and the Raven thing, you've got a lot of different options for how you can make the fight more interesting and more visually pleasing, I guess. But, yeah. But, I don't know.
Basically, the fight ends, and Cinder loses, essentially. Because Raven's like, hey, you should remember to watch your back, and it turns out Vernal wasn't quite dead. She feels happy. Sorry, Monty Python.
I feel happy!
And she sits up one last time to shoot Cinder in the back, who dodges or blocks or something, and then Raven shoots her in the back again. And
Raven takes advantage, and
double backstab.
Plus, I don't think it could have turned out another way, because as much as we don't like Raven for a lot of very legitimate reasons, it is implied that she has more experience being a maiden, and she's also just
Well,
more
she does.
experienced.
Cinder's
Yeah,
only had the power for less than a
yeah,
year.
yeah. And so, not beyond that, she's also much more skilled in combat, and that's been established early on.
Hmm.
Uh,
And it's been pointed out that Cinder does have a weakness in the form of the Grim parts that don't have aura because Grim,
yeah.
which makes sense and was a nice touch. That
Hmm.
was sensible, fits within the lore of the setting. That was good.
Not to mention the whole Silver Eyes things hit it earlier.
Yeah, we don't really know what effect that had other
I
than
don't know, but I'm
making
just
her
saying.
stumble for a
I'm,
second.
I'm just saying everything was going against Cinder actually winning this fight.
Mm. And then uh, Raven basically throws Cinder off the edge and then turns her into an icicle.
Bye, Cinder. You're probably going to come back and be like some monstrous form that's more grim than human or something. But
Probably.
for
Also,
now,
uh, just going to point something out because there is a little bit of uncertainty. People are saying in the comments that if they see the power moving from Cinder to Raven, that doesn't happen.
no.
I've double checked several times. That's not what's happening. It does almost look like that in certain shots because Raven's eye flame thingies are a little bit more orange than they used to be. That's lighting.
And then, yeah, Vernal dies. So congratulations, Yang. You land, and there's only your mom
Not
down
quite.
here.
For whatever reason, and I'm gonna give a little bit of leeway. I know it's strange for me on the show, but I'm gonna give it a little bit of leeway and say there is an explanation for why Raven has decided to open the vault when she is the only one that can open the vault, and everyone that wanted to open the vault is now either dead or captured. Benefit of the doubt. We're gonna see what happens, but she opens the vault, and there's desert on the other side, and the relic.
Well, at this point, like, what would be the like if she opens that vault and she just takes that? That could give her a bit of an edge because if Cinder does survive that, then everybody knows that Raven's the maiden, and they're going to be after her regardless. So it's best to have something that she's supposed to have to help her out. I guess is the reasoning there.
Here's the thing. I think they're setting this up for a not necessarily heel face turn, but a heel not so heel turn, where Raven doesn't actually want Salem to win. So, if that's the case, then the smart play would be to go back to her bandit tribe, move, and just basically be on the run. She doesn't know that Cinder's still alive,
Yeah,
though genre savviness tells me that she is. So, that seems like the safest play. And if she gets killed, because now she is an enemy of Salem, regardless of whether she has the relic or not, or, you know, whether she comes back from this, or whether anyone else comes back from this. So, she would go back to her tribe and fight them off every time they come after her. And if she gets killed, oh no, the maiden power travels to someone else, the relic is still safe. But with the relic out in the world, that is way more dangerous.
yeah. But as we've established before, Raven is smart.
She's smirked.
Um, I'm
She's so
having.
clever and cunning and a good
I'm.
strategist.
Yeah, I'm half expecting her to take out the relic and be like, "Yeah, it's mine now. I'm a bandit, so I take what I want. It's mine." I don't expect her to just run away and hide and be like, "Yeah, now you can't get the relic." Ha ha. I think it's more like I lost Vernal for this, so I'm gonna freaking take this thing because it's mine now. You can't have it because it's clearly gonna be safer with her. Clearly.
Hmm. I don't know. I don't think the next episode is going to save this season. I don't think it's going to save this show. So I am very much done after this. and by which I mean I'm pretty much just going to stop watching the show. Even outside of doing this show, I'm just done. I can't anymore.
Despite all the complaints we brought up and everything, I did like a lot of the parts of this episode. First watch, it's decent enough that it kind of brought me back a little bit. It's to the point where I don't think I want to do this show anymore for it after next episode, but I would be willing to give the next season just a watch of the first episode just to see if they improved. Because I don't know what the heck happened this season.
Well, I don't even know what they're going to do for next season.
Neither do I. It's probably going to be, well, let's see. Okay. Here's what we're going to do. Return of the bad guys. Now the bad guys have to make a comeback.
I still think it would be interesting if they tried to retake Beacon.
That's funny. It's not going to happen.
It's not, but it'd be good. I'd watch that. I say that. I would think twice about giving up on that, I suppose, is the proper way to phrase that. But we'll see where they take it in the next episode, because I assume they will give some direction for what the next season is going to be in that episode, which is next week or on this Saturday, depending on whether you have a first membership. Regardless of watching RWBY or not, I still kind of recommend the first membership because Rooster Teeth have a lot of good shows that are worth watching. But, yeah, this one's kind of lost its luster a little bit.
Boy, remember when we started this show? The whole RWBY review thing?
You remember when I begged you to start this show?
Yeah, and we started Zero Interest because you wanted me to watch RWBY? Yeah.
Yep. Alright, so
Yeah.
I'm just going to double check there's not anything I'm missing. I don't think there is.
I don't think there is. If there is, it didn't matter enough for us to notice it.
Oh, there was sword envy because two giant swords. It was, it was silly.
Okay.
There was one thing that I really wanted to mention. The capture is actually kind of fucking up and going to 0 frames per second, but, you remember that bit in the bandit camp confrontation? Where Raven is like, hey, that name's so silly you probably picked it yourself. Cinder Fall. Ha 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 ha. It's a joke. Because Vernal was a decoy maiden, so she probably chose that name herself to more fit into the decoy of being the Spring Maiden.
That's
actually kind of funny in hindsight.
Yeah, that's actually pretty decent. Yeah, I like that.
So, yeah. Good job on this. Is a good hindsight joke for a second watch, but you shouldn't watch this season a second time. So, yeah. So, that's the episode. We'll be back next week with the finale.
Bye.